Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video.
We are more than we are one.
More importantly though, welcome back to Grisha Weekend. Today is Sunday, this is the third part to my Grisha Weekend. This is all about prepping ourselves for the Shadow and Bone series that is releasing April 23rd on Netflix. If you haven't checked out my first video, I go into my history about why I haven't read the Shadow and Bone series. And I'm going to go into a little bit more of that today, actually. And I also watched the trailer and reacted to it if you want to see that. And then Saturday, I actually went into why I actually like the Grishaverse, because I didn't talk about that on Friday. But I go into a little bit about why I like this series and this IP so much. And then also go into a full discussion and review of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, that duology. And all of that is no spoilers. Today will also be no spoilers unless you haven't read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I feel like it's really hard to talk about these books without having read Crooked Kingdom and Six of Crows, so just go watch that first, and if you end up liking them, read those books and then come back here and watch this later, because honestly, even though I skipped Shadow and Bones to read Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, you can't skip either series actually. You can't skip Shadow and Bone or Crooked Kingdom if you want to read King of Scars. So here is my non-spoiler review and discussion of King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. So first off, I did want to clarify when I said you can't skip Shadow and Bone. I actually did go back and read like a full synopsis, full spoiler synopsis of what happens in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, all three books. So I know the events of it, though I don't know the characters, which is actually the first weirdly positive thing I could say about not reading the series. I've heard a lot from people who've read King of Scars and then who have gone on to read Rule of Wolves, and apparently a lot of the stuff that she had wrote or that readers have consumed and sort of like digested from the Shadow and Bone trilogy, it comes off weird in these two series. For those who don't know, King of Scars actually takes place as another duology. We are back in Ravka, which is where the Shadow and Bone series takes place. We follow Nikolai, who is the King of Scars, and he is going on a journey to save his country. The second point of view of this book is Nina Zenik. She is one of the Six of Crows, and she's one of the main reasons why I even continue this series, but she's not the reason why I stayed. Because honestly, I really liked Nikolai and I really liked Zoya. And I feel like that's probably the first sort of negative, and one of the only negatives for me at least, is that the two point of views are completely irrelevant in this series. It makes a lot more sense in Rule of Wolves, but as of right now, it doesn't really make sense with King of Scars. What Nina's doing and then what Nikolai and Zoya are doing are completely different. Nina is dealing with the repercussions from the end of Crooked Kingdom, where she has unfortunately lost someone very precious to her, and her powers are significantly different after she was dosed with Judah Parem. So I would definitely say that Nikolai and Zoya's story sort of like branches out more of the whole world. We get a lot more about the history of the Grisha. I mean, that's pretty much it. It doesn't really go too much into any other countries or anything like that. We get a lot of growth from Zoya in terms of her powers. We also have her trying to deal with pretty much the outcome from the Shadow and Bone series. Now, we haven't really caught up with Zoya or Nikolai since the ending of the Shadow and Bone trilogy, so they are dealing with their issues. And obviously, Nikolai is very different because he still has a shadow and a darkness inside of him from his attack from the Darkling. Nina's story is definitely very compelling. I feel like Nina definitely gets all the emotional moments. Like, there are some really amazing moments with Nina where she's sort of, trying to deal with her loss and try to let go. She has one of the best struggles, and I'm going to get to this more in the Rule of Wolves, but she has one of the most complex and sad, difficult journeys. If you watch my Six of Crows videos, you know that I talked about how her and her partner Matthias, they are from warring countries. Fjerda and Ravka do not get along. Fjerda wants to basically eliminate Grisha. All through everything, Nina and Matthias find a way to love each other. They understand that they aren't demons, that it's more that they were raised to hate each other, and they don't see that way anymore. And now Nina has to try to continue that alone. She doesn't want to dismiss Matthias's feelings, or she doesn't want to go against his wishes. This is his country, this is his people, and she has to somehow find a way to love them and basically save them from themselves. And it's so tragic and heartbreaking to watch her go through this. But like I said, she has some amazing moments. Her ending in particular is incredible with what she does with her powers. It's so good. I also think that what Nikolai and Zoya do are really interesting. I think their bond together is fun. I actually love Nikolai. He sort of basically reminds me of like Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. He has that kind of like humor and, you know, sort of like lead mentality. So he was really fun to follow. You also get a lot of the other minor characters that were from Shadow and Bones, like Genya and David, and just people like them. There's also a smaller side story with a newer character named Isaac, and his stuff was actually really interesting too. So again, I continue to love the character work and development in the series. That's why I said I loved Six of Crows 4. I personally did not have a lot of problems with this. They said a lot of people I think didn't like this were because they said, oh, this wasn't like this in Shadow and Bones, or like they didn't think they were going to do this with this character, or she kind of like changes the magic system to kind of fit certain things. Again, since I'm sort of new to the magic system, like I didn't care. I thought what she did worked. I actually liked the way that she was expanding on the magic system. So for me, I believe I gave this like a solid 4 stars or something like that. And then we have to talk about its sequel, Rule of Wolves. Hello, it is a different day. I actually was so excited to get all these videos done and do these reviews that when I started recording my King of Scars review, I literally got all the way through it, and I even held up Rule of Wolves and I thought, oh crap, I haven't even finished this yet. So anyways, obviously there was no time skip for you guys, but I had to stop recording, go finish Rule of Wolves, and now I'm back, and let's go and continue. I'm actually really excited to say that much like the Six of Crows duology, where the first book in the duology was pretty good, it actually surprised me how much I liked it, and I gave it about a 4 stars, and then Crooked Kingdom came along and blew me away, and it built up on everything that was set up in the first book. And Rule of Wolves actually does the same thing. So one of my biggest problems, like I said, in King of Scars is that there are 2 dueling perspectives, Nina and then Zoya and Nikolai. And there's like no really connection there. They're sort of like 2 separate stories. And so like, even though I liked the 2 separate stories, just together in a meshed book, it read kind of weird. This one actually, all the perspectives are going towards one goal, and it works so much better. So Rule of Wolves, we actually pick up right where we left off from King of Scars, as per usual with sequels. We have Nina still in the depths of Fjerda, trying to basically save the country from the inside, as well as continuing to be a spy for her country, Ravka. At the same time though, she's also trying to basically falsify these miracles. She has like the Grisha network trying to set up these spectacles that are trying to make the Fjerdans respect the Grisha more, or essentially her whole goal is that the god of Fjerda, they're trying to say that the Grisha are children of this god, so that they sort of kind of like worship them, or at least like respect them. And then on Nikolai's side of the story, he's basically trying to get as many allies as he can, because he knows Fjerda is coming for their country. So he's trying to gain an alliance with the Shu Han, as well as like win over the Kerch. Actually, pretty early on, you actually figure out there's this really interesting, like, subverting expectations for both the Shu Han story and the Kerch story. So I think that was all really well done. That's, again, probably one of my highest praise, just like the Six of Crows duology, is that this one takes a lot more, like, complicated stories, or it definitely makes it a far more intriguing. It weaves in a lot of different elements with the politics, with the geography and where we're going. There's just so many more interesting things in this book. Like, there is barely a dull moment in this one. It does still have its flaws though. There are some plot points that I feel like weren't really necessary, or at least its outcome was rendered useless or kind of like a waste of time. So that wasn't really fun. And also in particular, this isn't really spoilers, but the stuff that happens in King of Scars with Zoya, I feel like she doesn't really bring it up again until much later in this book. So it's kind of those things where it's like it just happened in like the first book, and then you get here and there's just like nothing going on with it. It's like, what happened to this? What happened to all this stuff we like just saw in King of Scars? Similarly, but not as bad, is Nina. I mean, like, we already got Nina's power from the first one. It's not like what Nina's doing is like nothing new, but she also doesn't do anything with her powers, especially towards the end when I feel like you kind of expect that for her to be able to do a lot with her powers, or there's certain moments where you see Nina being set up to be like, oh, she's going to do something like really incredible. She doesn't, which, like I said, is kind of disappointing because you kind of expected that she would be able to do something. In fact, I don't think she actually actively uses her powers at all, or at least in like the battle sense, or like it's mostly just the passive abilities of her powers she kind of uses. But even then, like I said, she's actually one of the plot points where I feel like was kind of a waste of time whenever you, like, in the grand scheme of things. I, of course, want to continue to praise the relationships that Bardugo writes. I feel like they're all very healthy. They're just some of my favorites because she wants to make sure that these characters like understand one another. You know, they mesh well, they're good for each other. They sort of build each other up, they understand each other's flaws and trauma, and like they just like are very cohesive and mesh well. It's just really healthy, and it makes me like want to see them together, and I'm very happy when they do get together. Lastly, also is I haven't actually talked about this before, but there's a lot of really good LGBT representation in Bardugo's books. They said there's a lot of queer characters. There's lots of MM and FF romances, which is like awesome to see. One character who actually deals with a lot of gender identity actually has like a really amazing like gender identity story, especially considering the powers and what you can do in this kind of world. I think it was all really well done, and I love the way it came out. That's actually kind of punny. Anyways, as I was saying before, there kind of seems to be a weird phenomenon where if you've read the Shadow and Bone trilogy, this duology set actually doesn't come off super great. I think mostly because it seems that there's a lot of the characters, or at least the way they've acted Shadow and Bone trilogy, they don't really act the same here. As well as I think the magic system also changes in some ways where I guess it didn't really seem like they should have if you've read the original trilogy. So again, I think it's really humorous and kind of interesting that I feel like I've liked these books so much more than if you've been a fan since like the very beginning. Also, again, no spoilers, but when you get to the end of Rule of Wolves, it definitely sets up another book in the series, and I'm very excited for it, and that's all I'll say. If you probably watched my whole Grisha weekend by now, you probably know what that means, and that's fine. But yeah, that is it for me, guys. Like I said, I think this was a very successful duology in my eyes. I still think I like Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom more, mostly just because I'm a fan of smaller stories. I don't really like, you know, when countries are on the line and stuff like that. I definitely like more character stuff. So even though I think a lot of the plots and the political stuff in here was very interesting and very well done, I still prefer a lot of the character stuff that she did in Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. But this duology was still really great, and I'm definitely looking forward to coming back into the Grishaverse with whatever she has planned next. So yeah, that is it. Let me know down below if you enjoyed this series or what you kind of liked and disliked. I'd love to know down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and all my social media is listed down below. You can follow me on Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. So thanks again for stopping by. Have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye now.
She'll realize she has only one equal. There are no others like us, and there never will be.
You have no idea how much larger a role you have to play.